there was fatigue, there was excess saliva, and next thing you know, gush again. So I was like, oh, okay, can you leave the bathroom again, please? And he's like, wait, they gave you a diaper? And I was like, yeah. So yeah, this looks like a miscarriage to me, and there's nothing I can do about it. Sorry. I had to go on pelvic rest and reduced activity. But the most important thing was that little baby was fine. And that's all I cared about at that point. I spent so much time just wheezing, like wheezing. I feel like his legs were just like pushed up on my lungs or something. I don't know, but it was just horrible. But when I tell you, like, he dropped. So around late November, which was my 26th week, I started to feel the most severe pain in my legs. When I tell you I couldn't walk properly and I could not sleep properly, it is no word of a lie. I was literally limping everywhere. Sleeping was just non-existent for a very long period of time because I could not stay on one side for more than 30 minutes. It was just so painful. And I know I'm saying this all with a smile, but that's because it's over and I don't have to deal with any of this anymore. Around that time, the Braxton Hicks contractions also started, which was not fun. During my first pregnancy, I actually never had Braxton Hicks. So this time around, it was a very unpleasant surprise, especially because they hurt a lot. It was also very funny because around November, like that same 27th week, I felt like this strong need to nest. Like I was cleaning, I was like, we have to get everything ready. I had some very strong feelings coming over me. Like we have to prepare for this kid now, like he's coming now. And weirdly, I also felt like after I had that really strong feeling to just get everything ready, by that evening, I swear I went to bed at like 5 p.m. Like this tiredness just hit me and I was gone, like I was asleep. So around December 12th, I want to say 28 weeks, it was actually fun. First of all, my bleeding came back again. I think that was maybe after the second time. This would be the third time the bleeding came back. And it's not only the bleeding that came back that, you know, I had to worry about, but I was also like starting to leak. I felt a little bit of trickles and I was like, this is weird. This is odd. But it lasted like, it was probably like 3 little trickles that day, like within the span of maybe 5 minutes, and then it stopped. So I was like, okay. And I honestly, I did pay attention to it, but it wasn't enough for me to go to the hospital, so I didn't. I just left it alone. But I also think that same week, I thought my mucus plug probably left. But when I went to the hospital, they said, you know, everything was fine, and it didn't. So I was like, okay, you guys know what you're talking about. So December 15th, this was week 29, things got interesting again. So I woke up at 5 a.m. that morning, and I woke up that early, aside from the fact that I had to pee, but I started feeling like these strong, like sharp pains in my abdomen. And I was like, oh, okay, more Braxton Hicks, cool beans. But then they actually started to come regularly. And I was like, okay, let me start recording this, because maybe it's contractions, maybe it's not, who knows, but let me start recording them. And at first I didn't think to record them because I was like, meh, I've been feeling pain this whole time, it's whatever. But when I did start recording them, I noticed I was like, oh, these are coming like frequent. They were coming maybe like 10-20 minutes apart, and I was like, okay, it's a good thing I started recording this. And then around like 6 a.m. they literally started coming every 10 minutes. Like on the dot every 10 minutes. And I was like, oh, this is weird. Like, and you know, when you look up on the internet, like the difference between Braxton Hicks and regular contractions, and you're like, oh, they usually come very frequently. And so I was like, you know, maybe this is actual contractions, but it's still bearable pain, so it's whatever. But I was at that time thinking maybe I should go to the hospital just in case. And that's what I ended up doing. This was especially because during my first pregnancy, I did not have any contractions before I got to the hospital. And when I got to the hospital during my first pregnancy, I was actually already 4 centimeters dilated. So yeah, with the consistent contractions, I was like, let's go to the hospital. But even on my way, I was still very suspicious about it because they didn't feel that bad. Yeah, so when I got to the hospital, they did, I think they did maybe 2 tests or something like that. And they also did an internal exam and just to check, and they had put the monitors on to see if they could see the contractions. And all of that stuff came back negative. Even the monitor was not showing anything. And at that point too, like it had stopped. So I was like, okay, you know, false alarm, like always, it's whatever. But they also sent me for an ultrasound. And funny enough, at that point, I was given 2 ultrasounds. I was given like a tummy one. I was also given an internal one. So yeah, it was very interesting. The results though, the results were very interesting. So first of all, we found out that my cervix was short, which basically meant that I was at higher risk for preterm labor. What are you gonna do, right? We also found out that little man was like so low. Like he was so low. He was basically just right there. Like he was deep in my pelvis, which explains all of the pain and, you know, hardships I endured when I was just trying to walk. So yeah, so needless to say, I was put on pelvic rest again. And this time it was literally until my baby was born. So there was however long that may have taken. And again, this was in December. So this was December until maybe beginning of March. So what is that? December, January, February, March. That would have been 3 months. That would have been 3 months of pelvic rest, which, what does that even mean? Oh, and that's not all. Oh gosh. We also found out that he went from being in the 45th percentile to being in the 12th percentile, all within a matter of 2 weeks. So a day after that, my obstetrician actually scheduled me in to visit her the next week. And yeah, so I did that, and then long and behold, he went down from the 12th percentile, which was still considered the safe zone, to being in the 7th percentile. Yeah. So at that point, he was actually given the diagnosis of intrauterine growth restriction. I had to go for NSTs, which is non-stress tests, and ultrasounds every week up until the date that he would be born. At that point, I was honestly so overwhelmed that I could not deal with it anymore. I asked my husband to put everything in his schedule for me because I was A, not gonna remember, and B, I really couldn't handle having all of those appointments in my planner. So he took care of that. Ooh. But now we get to the fun part of the story. So January 23rd, first of all, that morning, I had to go to the bathroom so many times. I think I went to the bathroom at least like 5 times within like a 2-hour period. So during my last trip to the bathroom that morning, I felt this like large gush of mucus because when I wiped and I checked, it was just, you know, mucus. So I was like, okay. And at that point, like, I used the bathroom in the dark because it was still, you know, dark outside. And so I just, you know, wiped and left it alone, went to bed. But then when I woke up again, which was probably around like 7 a.m., my was just completely soaked, like soaked. And when I went to check that time, it was just super wet and odorless and, you know, all the signs that, you know, oh, your water's broken, whatever. But you know, at that point, I'm literally over it. I was so over it. So yeah, I actually, when I got up to check that time, I felt a little more flow and I was like, oh, okay, what is this? So the first time I checked, there was still like some mucus there. So I was like, okay, you know, there's still some mucus. But then I checked 2 more times after that, and lo and behold, it was legit like fluid. So I was like, okay, maybe this is a little something. But the funny thing too was it wasn't like there was no big gush or anything. It was very small trickles. It was very infrequent. So I didn't really, again, I had gone to the hospital like so many times at that point. I was just like, I'm not trying to go to the hospital if there's no actual reason for me to go. So I held out a little bit. But it got to the point where the trickles kind of just kept coming. So I decided to call the hospital. They're like, oh, you know, come in. There's no harm in coming in. So I ate my breakfast and then I headed on down to the hospital. I was kind of excited and I was like, you know, maybe this is my water breaking. So I actually brought my bags and my husband was like, please bring the bags because I have a lot of things to carry. And he also had to, if, you know, he was being born that day, he'd have to like carry our daughter elsewhere too and everything. So he told me to bring my bags. And so I did. I also felt pretty like, I was like, if my water's not breaking right now and I carried all my bags to the hospital, like that would be so dumb. But I carried them anyways. So it was actually really funny because the hospital was super busy that day. And so I left around, I think it was 8 a.m. that I left my house. And then it was only at 2 p.m. when they actually like started testing to see if my water actually broke. They did the test and the test came back positive. Like it was legit my fluid, like my water broke. And they also checked to see if I was dilated. And lo and behold, I was actually 3 centimeters dilated at that point. And they checked me and they're like, yep, you're admitted now. Like you're staying here, whether the baby's born today or whenever, you're staying here. And I was like, oh, okay. So I was checked in, no, hotel. I was admitted around 2 p.m. And funny enough, I didn't start feeling anything, any contractions at all until around 5 p.m. And at that point, my husband was not there yet. I was actually on the phone with my sister when it started. And funny enough, it was her birthday that day too. So I was like, if this kid's coming on your birthday, you will be very happy, miss. But yeah, I was talking to her on her phone. She was getting ready for her like Zoom party and we were talking. As we were talking, they just kept getting stronger and stronger. But at that point, they were still bearable. Then I got off the phone with my sister and then my husband came in bearing a pizza. I was like, yes, thank you. I was just waiting for him to come with the food. And I was there like eating and like the contractions were still not very strong at that point. So I was there enjoying my pizza. So around 5:45, I had like literally just finished eating my pizza and I noticed the contractions were starting to get like stronger, like I could actually really feel them. And so the nurse actually came in and she only came in because the monitor was not picking up anything because they had hooked me up, but like Joey kept moving and he was always so uncooperative. He kept moving, so the monitors kind of like moved. And so the nurse couldn't pick up any of the signals or anything. So she came in the room to fix the monitors and I was like, yeah, so I'm kind of starting to feel contractions now. And she was all like, oh yeah, but the monitor's not picking it up. So she moved the monitors, and then long and behold, she started seeing the contractions on the monitor. And we were like, okay, great. Now you can, you know, monitor the contractions. Because they usually go off and, you know, do their thing, but they monitor it so from their desk or whatever. So a little bit after that, I don't even want to say, maybe like 15 minutes, maybe like max 20 minutes after that, the doctor actually came into my room, and she had this smile on her face. Well, I could see by, you know, covering through her mask, she was very cheerful, and she was like, hi. And I was like, hi. Yeah, like she literally came in to tell me that my labor was progressing like very fast. And she was like, this is very interesting. And I was like, well, you know, I feel them. That's cool. So yeah, then they kind of left again, and that was that. Like my husband and I, we were just chilling, watching The Office. And yeah, then my contractions, you know, I started to feel them more and more. And then I felt the need to go to the bathroom. So I rang like the bell thing, and they came in, and I was like, sorry to bother you, but can I go to the bathroom? Because one of the things, if you don't know already, is if you're that far along in labor, you probably should not go to the bathroom, because you might push the baby out into the toilet. But at that point, I did not think that I was that far along in labor, because I was still like, it was whatever. I just like simply felt like I had to use the bathroom. So after I had called them and they came in, I simply asked them, I was like, can I go to the bathroom? And she was like, probably not. That's probably not the best idea at this point in time. And I was like, no, you know, okay, it's your call, but I just feel like I have to go to the bathroom. Yeah, so they actually said that my labor was progressing so fast that they did not feel comfortable with me going to the bathroom at that point. So they actually gave me something called an in and out to go pee, which is basically like a tube that, you know, allows you to pee from the bed. So they gave me that, and then yeah, I'm not even lying, like at that point they were like literally looking at each other like, should we prepare for labor? Because it wasn't only like I had to pee, like they're like, do you also have to poop? And I was like, a little bit, yeah. And they were like, let's probably get ready to deliver something now. So yeah, they went to put on their gowns, and at that point I was like, okay, cool. And at that point she also was like, let me check you just in case, you know? And I was like, okay, you know, you do your thing. It's not that serious, but okay. She checked me, and like literally as she was checking me, the rest of my water just like broke. And then she's like, yeah, girl, you're like 7-8 centimeters dilated. And I was like, okay, cool. Like to me, that was just, it was so unexpected, because I literally barely felt anything up to that point. And then they're like, yeah, your baby's coming now, like you're gonna start pushing soon. And I was like, no. When I'm telling you, I literally closed my eyes for 2 seconds. And then when I opened them, there were 10 people in the room, like ready to deliver my baby. Like I was like, what is going on? Okay, so it probably wasn't 10 people, but it was like a lot of people in the room. At that point, the contractions did start to hurt. Also at that point, I was feeling the need to poop. Like I was like, yeah, that's a poop feeling. And you know, that's when they're like, oh, okay, it's time to push. And I was like, okay, yeah. So at that point I started pushing. And yeah, after pushing about maybe 5 times, little Jojo was out. And yeah, he was born at 7:01 p.m. So yes, that is my pregnancy story. And I hope this wasn't clickbait, and I hope it was actually more intense, or, you know, just as interesting as I thought it was. But yeah, there was just there was a lot that happened. And at this point, I've literally forgotten all of it. The only reason I'm able to recall any of it is because I was documenting each thing as it happened. But yeah, that was my pregnancy story. Oh, but don't go yet, because I have some things to tell you, okay? Not only do I have a couple of videos coming up with some tips and tricks for pregnant women and women who are in their postpartum period, but I also took the time to create some e-resources for you guys, just in the event that you might possibly need them. So yeah, I'm very excited to share that with you guys, and I hope you stay tuned to, see it. But with that being said, thank you so much for watching this video, and yeah, stay tuned. If you want to see more beauty, fashion, and lifestyle content along with some pregnancy content, again, please feel free to subscribe and like this video if you liked it. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!